Welcome back to the People Development Podcast. On this podcast, we believe that growing yourself is best achieved when you help to develop the people around you. I'm your host, Harrison Tash, and with me today is Ricardo Arcia. Now, Ricardo is the founder and CEO of TerraVision Technologies. It's a software development partner that has helped US and Latin American companies build and scale digital products for more than 20 years. He's an engineer and a serial entrepreneur. He has grown TerraVision from a startup all the way to 200 plus person teams. And they're known for product engineering, self-augmentation, and AI-powered solutions. He is an expert. And on this podcast, we discuss the disruption of AI, but more importantly, how to think, how to discover, and how to experiment with AI. Ricardo breaks through with a wealth of knowledge to this episode. So if you've ever thought, am I behind with AI? Ricardo will help you move forward. I'll see you guys on the other side.
You don't want to never count yourself out, make it a great one. Just be sure to leave out the doubt, time to wake up.
And here is our guest, Ricardo Arcia. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Harrison. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. I greatly appreciate it. As we've had some bantering back and forth over the last month, I've really enjoyed getting to know just the way that you think, the way that you lead. But I know there's an introduction, all this stuff that we do for you, but I always love it if you could just tell the audience a little bit about you and what you do.
Of course. Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a software company. I founded the company and I'm the CEO. I've been doing that for 20 years. However, during the last 18 months, we have been in a transformational journey. And the reason is that AI changed the way we do software. We've been doing software for 20 years in the same way, and now the rules have changed. So we've been transforming intentionally our company, and I'm currently finishing the last editing parts of my book, The Cognitive Leader, and it's exactly about that process that we have lived in the last year and a half.
Yeah, and that's why I really respect you, is that the way in which you think, and a lot of what we're going to talk about today is this disruption that we've seen, disruption in the workplace, disruption only even in our own personal lives with some of the new technology and AI that has introduced itself. And so I love, by the way, I love the idea of cognitive, right? And I want the audience to kind of understand, what do you mean by that? So kind of give us a premise of the book of why it's important and what it is.
Well, cognitive means intelligent collaboration between human and machines. So, what we have seen in our experience on these 18 months is that there is a lot of tools that we are all using from a personal and from a business level, AI tools. But at the end, what I believe companies are looking for is for cognitive leaders. That's why I titled the book that way. They're looking for leaders that are able to use their human perspective and take advantage in the best possible way on what AI and the machines can provide. This new technology that blows our mind.
Yeah. Recently, I guess I've heard kind of both sides of the puzzle, which is, if you look at the extremes, the people who are like, I want nothing to do with it. And then the other extreme is like, I want everything to do with it. And I'm seeing people lead their businesses in both ways. But I think what you're referring to is somewhere in the middle of this, which is kind of like using the tools, making sure that, what do you think, if people listening right now are probably thinking right away is like, am I a cognitive leader? Am I the one who's, AI plus humans? Am I the one that's using these tools and resources well? Am I ahead of the curve? Am I behind? What is like the best piece of advice you have for them like right now?
Well, first, I think that we all think we are behind on the curve. I mean, it's amazing. I have, during my process of writing the book, I interview over 150 IT leaders, and 90% of them thought that they were behind.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing. I mean, I have seen that everyone, and of course, my domain is more on the technical side. We're talking about how AI impacts the software, the way of doing software, but I think it applies to all the aspects of a business. We see that uh, you have the leaders that stall, the ones that you're mentioning, that are like frozen there. But I think the way of approaching this is jumping in. You will have an initial phase of experimentation, and that's, I mean, you will. The difference between this disruption and the ones that I have seen before is that in the ones before, you could imagine how those technologies would work. Let me give you an example. When we started 12 years ago doing applications in our mobile devices, I could tell you that we could use now this instead of in your desktop, in your mobile, and you could imagine that. But
Yeah.
in this case, it's not that way. In this case, you have to get in and test it and get that dopamine AI moment where you are like, really? This
Yeah.
thing really did what I asked them to do. And in
Yeah.
1 second, this usually took me 2 weeks to crunch all this data and get into this solution. So I think you just have to jump in and experiment. And once you do that, then you need to build structures. You need to decide intentionally how you're going to try to approach this. Then you got to build guardrails. You have to define, we have all seen the different liabilities that AI could become. So you need to define proper guardrails.
Yeah.
Then you have to uh, train your team and tell them what you're expecting them to do. Um, uh, then you got to execute and build measures on how you believe you can get additional value from all this technology and all this that you're doing. Um, and after executing, you need to coach your team at the end. In my experience, trying to bring this into our software teams, you got to keep coaching them, not only train them and tell them what you want, but coaching them on a weekly basis. And then after a period of time that you have to define, we define a 90-day period, then we measure, see if we accomplish what we wanted, and then we repeat the cycle again.
Yeah.
And I see, I always use the analogy of the marathon here. This is not a 100-meter dash. It is a marathon process, and you are going to be getting little bits of transformation that will bring more value to your business and to your customers.
Yeah, yeah. I guess a lot of the kind of phases that you just kind of went through on how to do it. I mean, the first one was jump in, and I wonder if there's because I'm not this way, but I'm sure there's people that are. Well, I know there are. They get stuck with the analysis, and they're trying to plan too much. They're trying to um, you know, trying to figure it all out before they actually jump in. So I like the idea of just jumping in. That's hard for some people. Practically speaking, is there some things that you say like just try starting with some of these type of tools and see where it goes? Would you have like high recommendations?
I mean, I think you should do that, but that has to have a timeline. I have seen in my experience, one of our biggest clients, they just gave their team a copilot and they said, "Hey guys, go and use this," and they didn't train them. They didn't give them a structure. They just gave them the tool. And what happened was
what
that
was the tool? What was the tool that it is?
Copilot,
Oh, a Copilot. Okay,
Copilot, yeah.
and for the audience, a Copilot is. I'm not asking for myself, but maybe I am. A Copilot is.
It is an LLM, a learning language model that helps you write code. You can write code, or you can write an email using Copilot as well. I mean, it's like ChatGPT or Gemini. It's
Yeah.
just one tool that help you, or Claude. Uh, and basically, what they provide them with that tool, so they could start using it and see how they could write code faster using that specific tool. And
Yeah.
what happened was that 10% of their engineers really started getting acceleration and more productivity. 80% of them try and fail, and because they didn't know better, they just stopped doing it, and 10% of them didn't even use it. So
Mm,
it wasn't, it's not a tool problem. It is, and I'm not saying that you don't give them the tool, and okay, you guys have a couple of weeks to train and use it, and see this couple of videos. But then as a leader, you have to define how they should use that. I'm not saying that you have to be right. And that's
right.
something that we build in our one of the aspects that I'm bringing with the book is that we build a framework on how we believe you should use AI to build software. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that because we have the experience in the industry, we have been
Mm,
doing that 20 years. Well, we're supposed to have the tools to define how we could use this new technology.
yeah.
What happened was that we found out when we implemented that with our teams that 20% of that was mistaken and 80% was somehow right. And then we kept tweaking it. And we've been for 9 months tweaking this and finding, to give you numbers, the best project that we have that is an enterprise project with a team that's been trying to do this for 9 months. We have found a 30% in more productivity, maintaining other important aspects like quality and maintainability and security on the software. I'm trying to translate that also to other aspects in any company. You will
Yeah.
find small pieces of transformation or better productivity or better value in a step-by-step process.
Yeah. What comes to mind is the quote from Mark Twain: "Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection." Right.
Yeah.
And so when you also talk about guardrails, and I think
Yes.
this is an important aspect as we work with a lot of companies on a leadership level, and we hear this like, yes, we want AI, but we don't know where it's going to hurt us. And then immediately there's like this story that they have in their head of another company that you know bought an LML, is a large language model, right?
LLM. Yeah.
And yeah, I just know it as like Chat GPT, right? Like the rest of the world. So yes, yeah, like and they say like, well, it didn't know our values, it didn't know like how we typically do business, so it's telling them industry standards on how to do something, but it's not telling them how we do it, and then it's misdirecting them. And we've seen, we've lost some money because we lost a customer because of it. And so there's these guardrails that need to be up. How do companies create good guardrails while jumping in?
Okay. Well, first you have to educate yourself. I mean, you have to have what we did in our side, in our experience. We built what we call the heavyweight team. What happened in our situation? What happened was that 18 months ago,
Yeah.
I knew I've been following AI for about 10 years, 12 years. And since I really understood the concept, I realized that it was going to disrupt the way we did software whenever it was mature enough to make it happen.
Mm.
So 18 months ago, I sat with my C-level team and we realized that it looked like it was the right time, that right now we need to take this serious. So what we did, and I'm going to come and answer your question in a minute, but what we did is that we asked three of our teams, software teams, and we told them, hey, we have this project that we know we delivered in 7 months a year ago, and we want you to try to execute it in 8 weeks using AI. I'm going to give you a way to experiment. This is the experimentation part I'm telling you about. To
Yeah.
experiment with any tools that you want to use, and let's try to do this. So we started finding different patterns. We started finding, and I'm sorry, Harrison, I lost my train of thought and I lost your question. Can you repeat your
No,
question?
no. So as you're talking about guardrails,
Oh yeah, good. I was gonna go to
yeah,
the guardrails.
yeah. So you tested this with your team by experimenting.
Yes.
One
Uh,
question I have before you finish this is, I assume that this was lower risk for you guys then?
what do you mean?
Like when you set your team out to experiment on something, it was a lower risk, like it didn't attach directly to the customer, or was it a
Of
higher risk
course.
mix?
No,
Yeah,
no, it has to be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was an experiment. It was
yeah.
telling them, I mean, I already had done that project and I said, this is a good project for them to test this out.
So you're taking something that's already been done and you're
Yeah.
just going to now filter it through with using AI, and you're saying, now let's experiment what it could have been like. Okay, I
Yes.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We just said, let's try this. And these are the important patterns that we found. We found that there were clear accelerations. I mean, the software process has different stages,
Mm.
like any other process. So in each of the stages of the process, you could find acceleration using different AI tools. There was a lot of chaos on the interaction between the stages. There were a lot of bottlenecks. We saw some stages that had a lot of increase in productivity and the other ones didn't catch up. So at the end, your final productivity wasn't better, or wasn't, you could see 60% here, 30% here, but then the final result was 5% of better productivity. So we saw that. We saw that engineers came in and the more junior they were, the less they thought about it, and the quality of what we got was worse. And the more senior they were, the more they thought about it, and the quality was better. So coming back to your guardrail question, what happens is that it, by experimentation and by doing internal things first, and that you brought a very important point. You said this is a low risk because you're not talking about your clients. Of course, I couldn't touch my clients by then. I had to learn first. And
Hmm.
then we decide, okay, now which are the important things? Well, there are several important things on guardrails. First, you always have to stay in control. Humans have to validate everything, at least now. You were talking at the beginning of the conversation, there's people that it's not moving, there's people that wants to use AI 100%. I think we're somewhere in the middle right now. I don't know if we're going to get there in a year, two, 10, I'm not sure. But at this point, I would never uh, make a line of code of software going out of my company without being reviewed and validated by a human. That
I
doesn't
want to
mean, go
I
ahead.
want to pause. I would just want to pause there for a second and just make sure that we kind of digest that, because there are some things that AI does really well today, even, but yet it still doesn't know. It doesn't know the company as well as the human who has worked there for 15 years, or the person leading the business like yourself. So when you validate it, have you been surprised by some of the validations? Like, has it surprised you that, like, oh, it's been right most of the time, or you found like, oh, there's been some major errors?
Well, it is. I mean, and this has to be with the way you you use this technology. What I mean by this is that one of the most important things is to provide the proper content to whatever tool you're using. So you're saying, yes, the applications don't know what they don't know, but if you take your time and contextualize the conversation that you're having with these tools, basically you reduce the probability of that result being wrong. The most you contextualize it, the better the results come, or the closer to what you're looking for. So let me give you an example. If I just said, hey, can you provide me a list of restaurants near me? I'm going to get fast food. I'm going to get Thai restaurants. I'm going to get everything around here, whatever he thinks. I could even get a story that he thought it was funny to give me that. But if I contextualize this and says, I only want Japanese food, I want restaurants that are on this price, if you give them context, then you're going to get probably 6 great Japanese restaurants, and probably one of them is wrong. It's not what you were looking for, but it's just one. In the other example, probably 90% of what they provide is not what I'm looking for because I didn't provide the right context. The things that One of the things that this technology does better than us is crunch data. It's amazing how fast this can provide us with a response on information on how to understand that information.
Yeah. As you were just finishing that, I was writing down here, training, like what you just talked about is kind of like prompting, right? Like, how do you prompt well into some of the large language models? And have you found that in the experiment phase, you're starting to be able to train better? And like, I mean, for you in the development, like developing, right? It's like, are you finding ways to train better in the prompting? And how much of a difference, you talk about contextual making that big of a difference? Um, I guess is there new ways? Like, I'm thinking about the person who's thinking right now is like, yeah, I use ChatGPT, but you're
Right.
saying, but wait, are you using it to its best degree? Are you using those LLMs to the best degree? What are the ways that you're finding in the contextual prompting side, best methods or what have you?
Well, from an enterprise perspective, because I wrote this book and we are very aligned on how we do this on the engineering perspective, but we're also applying this in our company in the different aspects.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is that we contextualize the different LLMs for the different areas. So they have guardrails, they have the company information. So we do this institutionally. And then we provide our resources in different areas of the company or our engineers with a library of prompting. But
Like a
that
script, you mean, or
yes, we give them. So we contextualize, we give you the prompting, but then we teach you how we think you should customize that prompting, because I'm giving you the guardrails on the top. I'm giving you the first way to approach the problem, but then I don't know the problem that you're trying to solve. I need to teach you and I need to train you on how we think you should do it. So we train you, then you start playing with that and contextualize whatever you're going to be doing. And then we build intentionally coaching. And what I mean by that, uh, we build a small dosages of trying to show people how they can be successful in a specific use cases. Because sometimes, and I have seen this in our engineers and in our resources inside of our company, all of us get that dopamine AI moment and that aha moment at different moments for different reasons.
yeah,
When you see success, to give you an example, every 3 days, we have one of our engineers showing everybody else a success story. And
That's
10
really
minutes,
yeah.
10 minutes, they come in, they sit, everybody jumps in, not everybody, but 20, 15 other engineers, and they show, oh, I was doing this, and they show a great story. And
Yeah.
that sometimes sparks somebody else's idea. Oh, now I see what you did. And now I see why what I'm doing is not working. And
Mm.
now I see how can I do better. So that type of stuff. There are small spoons of coaching that I think are really important. And and nobody knows how this works. So we're just trying to uh, bring our team to help us get better for all our company. I mean, it's not just I don't have to be right. By definition, I'm not right. Uh,
Yeah,
Somebody
no,
else is right. So
yeah.
we're just trying to bring everybody. I always see, and I'm pretty sure you've seen quotes. I mean, I don't think AI is gonna replace any of our engineers. What is gonna replace our engineers is another engineer that decides that he wants to really embrace this change and test this out and be changing every single day and trying to use this technology and be a cognitive leader in the organization.
I want to quote you because as we were going back and forth on, just general conversation on this, one of the things you said, and I quote, the role is evolving from executor to validator and orchestrator. I think this speaks to what you were just talking about, but I want to let you break that down just a little bit for the audience.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna try to give you not an engineering example.
Okay.
Imagine that you're writing an email. All right, you're in an email, and before you sat with your email, your mail, and you started writing your stuff. Okay, right now you are the architect and the validator of that email. What that means is that you sit with ChatGPT and you just tell them, I want to send this email to Harrison saying blah, 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 blah. You're architecting what you want to say. Then ChatGPT writes that for you. And then you sit and you validate. You sit and you say, this is what I wanted to say. No. And then you give another prompt and say, hey, by the way, don't tell Harrison that I want to meet with him tomorrow. You got it wrong. I want to meet with him 2 days from now. So
Right.
it's exactly that. Your role is changing. You are architecting, AI is executing, and then you're validating. That's
Yeah. I really like, I know that's a simple example, email. But if we keep going on that example, I can remember a time early in my career where I had to send an email out to an entire staff of, hundreds of people and getting nervous and having that, like over analysis on it, right? And it is like what I used to do? I used to actually send myself, if it was like a big email where I felt like
uh-huh.
it had a lot of weight to it, I would send it to myself and let it sit in my inbox for a day and then send it back out.
Right.
But now I'm not executing on that email as much. If it's something lengthy and it needs to be, I might put it through ChatGPT and say, hey, shorten this up and make it more impactful. And so I'm orchestrating and validating it as I'm going. Now I don't do that for every email because that would be insane at this point. But to go on to your example, it might actually save an hour of time in, oh, did I get all the right stuff? Did I say it in the right way? Is it clear? Do I need to run this through some sort of spelling, right? Like grammar and all that. So I get your example and I'm thinking about other examples that companies are going to use this kind of method of orchestrating and validating instead of executing. And I know, you're talking about, development, software development. That's one of them, right? And I'm also thinking about these small tasks that we once did, like create an image or create an icon or, like there's so much coming down the pipe. Okay, so I want to quote you again because I thought this one was really, really very intriguing. And I want you to tell us what you mean by this. Transformation cannot be delegated.
Yes.
So explain a little bit of how you've worked through this process, what this means for you.
Well, Harrison, this is a great question because it, as I was mentioning a little before, we've been transforming, especially in technology. You are used to transform. You are used to get new technologies. You are used to keep learning. Some other industries are less impacted by changes, but ours is on a daily basis. But um, and sometimes when we, to give you an example, when the mobile applications came in 12 years ago, we decided to get a new department, build a new department for mobile, and we decided to do several stuff in order to accommodate and try to understand this new technology and how we could embrace it and how we could add more value to our clients using it. But it wasn't as important to do it intentionally. I mean, it was, as I was mentioning, it was it, we could go along with the wave and get a couple of new engineers and knew more about mobile and train them and make them learn. But in this case of AI, and not only for engineering, for everybody, it, I really think that if you are not intentional, what's going to happen is that you want to experiment, fail, don't learn because you were not intentional, and you're going to be in a vicious cycle that is not going to lead you anywhere. Instead, if you are intentional, even if you're wrong, you learn and then you don't do it again. And then you learn something from that cycle that you were intentional, and then you keep moving. And that's the analogy of the marathon I was mentioning. I see this as a process. And don't get me wrong, we got it wrong many times on this process. Things that we said, let's do it this way, it wasn't that way. But definitely that intentionality, I think, is a virtue that leaders must have in this new way of doing business with AI around us.
Well, I'll give you a scenario, and I'd like for you to kind of take this scenario and add to it with your own wisdom. A lot of companies that we work with might have the CEO. I mean, for the majority, the CEO or the top line executives, they are in their third or fourth quarter of their career, right? They've earned their spot, and so through this change, when you say transformation can't be delegated, they might be delegating like to an outside source, like, hey, can you help us solve this problem? Or they might be delegating to their tech manager or their director who's over that, and they're like, hey, we need to figure out what we need to be doing. What are we not doing? We should be doing. And I'm just wondering, like, what bits of advice would you give to them in that transformation stage that are the things that you're like, don't delegate these things, don't delegate how you do this. What are those kind of things? And I'm sure for you've probably have some hard lines where you're like, I'm going to be involved with this all the way through. I'm not just going to delegate it and, avoid it, if you will.
Okay. Well, what I would suggest them is to have a team. In my case, we call it the heavyweight team,
Yeah.
responsible for transformation. The reason why is that whenever you ask somebody to transform, and this applies to our teams, when I ask my teams to transform and also deliver, well, what's happening is that they always are going to prioritize delivery, because
Yeah.
that's what they're measured by, or what they typically measured by. You are measured by delivering this feature to this software. Okay, so if I have any spare time, then I do transformation. So in this case, you need, in what worked for us, and as I said, you said wisdom. We have no wisdom. We just have experimentation that we go one after the other.
Yeah.
But we will. What I think is you need this heavyweight team that defines how this transformation is going to be, guardrails, framework, tools, everything you're going to need, and their goals and their measures, their key performance indicators are related to transformation. And they're going to define how you're going to be transforming each of the areas of your company. One
Yeah.
important thing is that one important thing that we found was that whenever they were helping these teams transform, they have to give them the leadway to know that it was okay if they were less productive at the initial part of the process because they were delivering and transforming. And we wanted them because we believe that we really have to do this in order to be ahead of our competition. Then I'd rather you to transform and be a little slower on what you're doing and learn your lessons and then at a certain point get better in the productivity than don't do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we had, in our experience, our engineers were like, well, but I'm not going to be able to deliver this on time. That's fine. Or to give you an example, one of the things that they were afraid is that they will bring errors on the code because the AI wrote them. And we said, that's fine. We, we understand that. Go for it, get the errors, and then we will figure out how we will solve the problem of not getting the errors. But I want to get the errors. I want to get, that's called in our language, technical debt. Let's get that technical debt. That's fine. And what happened is that then we realized what was the best way of helping them doing this without getting that technical debt. But in the case of any leader, I think is that uh, having that intentional team helping that their responsibility is mainly transformation. Otherwise, you're going to stay in that loop of people trying, failing really quick, and just keeping doing the same thing they were doing in the last 10 or 20 years.
I really appreciate that. You said no wisdom, but that is a lot of wisdom. And it's, I wrote down before you even said that was productivity. How do you measure it, right? And you were just talking about on there that at first you need to be okay with that it might be messier, it might take more time. And I really love that because I think we get impatient, right?
Yes.
We think that it's just going to solve our problems right now, but it is a little bit there's some short-term game, but there's also a long-term game that you're playing here. So maybe though, because again, I'm thinking there's a lot of people probably like me thinking, well, how do I measure productivity when it comes to, okay, now we've gone past the initial stage of using and integrating some of these new systems, new AI adoption. How do I measure productivity well? What are some methods that you guys use? Maybe some examples would be awesome.
Sure. Um, well, to give you an example, for our industry, you typically could measure, we measure something called story points. Story points are the amount of work a team can do on a 2 week basis. It's something we call sprint.
Okay.
So a certain team can deliver typically 22 story points every 2 weeks. And then you decide every feature that they're doing has 3 points, 2 points, 5 points, whatever they have, and then you do that. That was kind of the way that we used to do it. Now, what we are pushing our teams to do is not only to measure story points, but measure uh, other aspects of the process that allow us to see that. Sorry, let's cut on this because I'm trying to let me get my head around your question to get
Yeah.
back on how we're measuring. Um,
No,
let
what
me
the well,
find a good
just so you know, the story point piece makes a lot of sense. How much work you can get done in 2 weeks, like that makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of companies out there that aren't even measuring what it looks like today. So that's kind of harder to measure. Does AI help us in this? So I think that example in itself is really good. What do you think about when you're thinking about measuring if it is useful, if it is productive, and then seeing how it can help you? what are some of the things that you're looking at within that amount of work that they can do in 2 weeks? And then I guess I'm asking this personally, like what are the things that you're looking for? Like, is it projects? Is it task? Fill in the
Well,
blank.
it used to be lines of code. It used to be, but right now, what we are trying to measure is the whole process. And let me explain you how that whole process means. You have somebody on the software development process. You have somebody defining what we're going to do. Right now, you can accelerate that using ChatGPT, Gemini, any of these tools help you accelerate how you write down your requirements. Then we also measure right now how we create the screens, how we create this UX, the screens that you see using also AI tools, and we accelerate that as well. We use also the LLMs to accelerate on how we build the the software, how we write the code. Then we also have tools to test the code. But to go into the whole point is that at the end, the real measurement is not how each of them accelerated, is how much we were able to, instead of delivering 22 story points, now we're able to deliver 30 story points
Right.
in a 2 week sprint. So that's kind of the final measurement that we do, is how much can we, this same team is able to deliver right now. And at the end, what happens is that a project that could take 7 months, it doesn't take 8 weeks, but it takes 4.5 months right now. In this example, the original example we were talking about.
Oh, that's very helpful. And I'm sitting here thinking about, different departments within a company, right? Like marketing, sales, and the operations, a warehouse, you know what I mean? Like finance. I'm just looking at all these different buckets of departments, and I'm thinking, you do have to know where you are today in order to measure what's improving. And, like simple things like, well, if you had a co-pilot for sales that was able to automatically reply and follow up on things, does that increase the amount of calls you can do? Does that increase the amount of actual acquisitions that you get in a week, in a month? And so I really appreciate the different examples, because it does kind of stir some thought. And I would definitely challenge the audience to start thinking about, do we even know how we are today? Do we track our outcomes today so that we can track how well we're integrating things, adopting some of this new technology? I, the other thing I think that it would be interesting to get your take on is when we're thinking about in the next year, the next 2 years, what are the questions that you're asking yourself? What are the things that you're already thinking about that is going to help you continue to change? Because this is not a one and done. You mentioned 18 months, right? And
Yes.
so I'd love to learn a little bit about what you've learned, and then also what the things you're asking yourself and still questioning to help you get to the next 18 months.
Yeah. Well, one thing that you were mentioning, that it complements what we're talking about. That you mentioned that the companies probably are not measuring. Uh, One of the things that we have realized is that AI amplifies everything. What I mean by everything is that if you have, in some way, some bad practices, you will amplify those problems using AI. And if you have good processes and good practices, when you bring AI into the process, you are going to be able to accelerate excellence or get great results.
Mhm.
So, the way I envision the next 18 months is that I believe we all, as expecting to be cognitive leaders, we need to uh, first try to set up our basis, our minimum standards to work with AI, to think, okay, this is what I need in order to start growing on a solid base and then keep growing. As you mentioned, we all get impatient. We all think we're late. But I believe that one of the important aspects of this process is to really think it through and start bottom up, building something that could use AI to improve the value that we provide to our clients and the value of our companies, and not creating more chaos and more problems that will generate uncertainty and the vicious cycles that we don't want to get.
Yeah. Uh, what's top of mind for you when you think of, the things that you really want to concentrate on with your team or with your company? Like, what's the one thing, if you will, that you're really concentrating on as you're moving forward?
People. I mean, it's about having everyone aligned in my organization, that we are all in this journey, that we are all intentionally following an strategic path that we agree, and that we don't know what we don't know, but we will keep iterating and keep seeding every 90 days, because the same analogy that I mentioned for our development teams, I keep it for our company. Every 90 days with our C level, we review our strategic planning that includes several initiatives around AI, and we analyze them, see where we are, what we accomplished, what we didn't accomplish, and then we define the next target for the next 90 days. And it's been a very interesting journey. You made a great example of the email that uh, eliminates, that save you an hour in one day. That's exactly the example. I mean, we have our finance team right now is delivering amazing reports that I never imagined I could see them. And I'm doing that with the same team that I had a year ago. And a year ago, they couldn't deliver that. So
Mm.
now they have time to think about other stuff. But again, coming back to your question, it's about people. It's about training your people and coaching them, and getting them excited about this, getting them excited about this, and see this as an opportunity, instead of seeing that this as with the fear of losing my job. Or the thing is that they have to understand that the way they work change, and their role is going to be that one we were talking about before. You are going to architect what you're doing, and you're going to validate what you get at the end, but you 90% of the time are not going to be executing it, because the
Yeah.
machine is always going to be faster than you, and it's going to do it better than you.
I appreciate that. And just so everybody knows, I did not pay Ricardo to say people on the People Development Podcast. Okay. But I greatly appreciate just your outlook on this. And the great thing about this is that you're immersed in the technology world.
Yeah.
And a lot of businesses listening, or business leaders listening, are not. They provide a service, they provide a product that's outside of the technology world, and they're asking all these questions. So to be able to hear it from you, who's definitely immersed in it, they can breathe a little bit and say, we can start today. We can start trying and experimenting and discovering and validating, and you're right, like they can start this today.
And they should, because if they don't and their competition does, then they're going to be in trouble. They just need to transform. It doesn't matter the pace, at the pace that you transform, try to do it faster than your competition.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so this is my favorite part of the podcast, because I love absolutely hearing these rapid fire round. Ricardo, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, favorite movie. Um, Favorite movie. You got me here, but I'm gonna think. I'm gonna find one in a minute. Ask me another question, and I'll come back to you with a movie.
Okay, all right. Favorite quote.
Well, definitely, favorite quote would be Michael Jordan. I fail and fail and fail until I was successful. I mean, I love that one, and that comes really quick because I'm a sport fan, and in our family we all love sports, and I think it translates directly on what we're living right now. I mean, we are right now at a point in our transformation after failing and failing and failing and failing, and let's put the quotes on: we succeed. We succeed at the point where we are, and we will keep failing until we keep succeeding. And I love that. That
Yeah.
quote. I love it.
Yeah, I love that. If you were to go back and tell yourself something 10 years ago, what would it be?
That's a good one. That the only constant in life and business is change.
I
That's
think
the
we all,
only thing that it's. I mean, it's funny. I always think about this, and in a personal level, I don't know. I'm playing soccer with some friends every Saturday, and
Mhm.
then somehow, as a human, you believe that that's going to continue happening all your life. And
Yeah,
when I am playing and I'm enjoying that moment, and I realize this could be the last day.
yeah,
So let me enjoy really what I'm doing, because the only certain thing is that this is not going to happen forever. So it's going to change. So be ready for that. Uh,
yeah.
be always ready for that. Yeah.
Well, Ricardo, I've already hung up the cleats for 11s because that's a full field. It's hard to run on that. I'm down for sevens or sixes now. Okay, so
All right. Well, I decided to go to become a runner, an endurance runner, so nobody kick me, and I can just go. I'm just afraid of small dogs when you run
yes.
around them, and cars. Uh, watching, yeah,
You said small dogs. You said small dogs.
yes. I mean, those are the worst. I mean, when you run and you have a big dog, they are fine. They are. I mean, like they are like serious, and they see you, and but
Yeah.
small dogs, they are like they are not watching you. Like they are like seeing somewhere else, and when you pass, they try to bite you. They just go for you. So you gotta be really. I mean, every time I see a small dog, I change sides and go on the other side. If I see a big one, I say hello and I go. But the small
Yeah.
ones are
Oh my goodness.
complicated. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much wisdom we've learned from you today, but run away from small dogs, run past big dogs. Got it.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
back to the first question though. Your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. Uh, I love any of those movies where there is a story, um, a challenging story behind them. I'm thinking about the. I was trying to remember the name of the movie. The
Are you the
McPhee.
first? Are you the first guest I've had that doesn't actually watch movies, or what? I
I
mean,
do. I don't. I mean, I watch series now. The reason is that when I watch a movie and I like it, then the movie's over.
yeah,
And when I watch a series and I like it, now I have 20 more episodes to enjoy. I don't know. That's how I. So
right. So
I
tell
don't. I
me,
haven't gone to the movies unless it's a kids movie for the
yeah,
last 10 years, because my kids wants to watch movies and I go with them. But I
yeah.
haven't watched a movie. I watch series. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. But I love these movies where people, uh, true stories, true sports stories, where
Yeah.
people really struggle, and then at the end they show that after a lot of hard work, then you are able to accomplish it. So
No, I love that, and yeah, I agree with you. Those the series can be fun for sure. They can also suck some time, so you got to watch when you pick them up.
Right.
Well, Ricardo, it's been awesome having a conversation with you. I know you brought a lot of wisdom, a lot of good examples, and really good direction for people who are asking, am I behind with AI? What do I need to do? And so greatly appreciate having you on.
Thank you, Harrison. It's been my pleasure. And well, let's see each other around.
Yeah, absolutely. And that wraps things up for today. Thanks for joining us. Join us next time where we continue to learn together how to develop ourselves and the people around us. And don't forget that AI is not for us to just stop and overuse or try to figure out everything about it. We just need to jump in, as Ricardo said, jump in, try it, experiment. And if you think that you've already jumped in, then maybe you need to validate the outcomes, the productivity, and try to measure those things and move forward. And hopefully all the wisdom that you learned today, there's something, at least one thing that you can take with you and to make your life and your business better today. And we'll see you next time on the next podcast.
Make it a great one. Just be sure to leave out the doubt. Time to